people have said, oh, what am I going to do if my partner's getting targeted? Well, if your partner's getting targeted, they're intimately aware of the fact that they're getting targeted. At least I would hope that they were. What you do is, if they're getting hitting every ball to your partner, you get closer and closer to their side, and then your partner will move a little closer to, for example, the right. If they're playing the right, they'll move a little more to the sideline to shrink the court for your opponent. So if your partner's getting targeted, tell them, hey, I'm going to take a little more middle. It's fine. And if they get upset about it, which I'm sure they won't, tell them James and Josh says so. That's all.
For over 10 years, innovation has been at the core of who we are at Selkirk. We take risks, we test, we evolve. Introducing the Selkirk Lab 007. With an Infinigrit surface that lasts at least 3 times longer than rock carbon, and a titanium mesh layer for added power, while maintaining the largest sweet spot available, because good is never good enough.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the James Ignatowich Show. I am here in San Clemente. It's kind of chilly. That's why I've got this quarter zip on. I wasn't sure what this was called. They told me it was a quarter zip. I thought it was a sweater. So I don't really know the terminology. That's it. Yeah, just 20 seconds about nonsense right into pickleball now. So okay. So by the way, San Clemente I think is my favorite place in the world, and the PPA is going to have 2 events there. Hopefully MLP has an event there next year too. I love coming back here. And if you know anybody in the San Clemente area that wants a clinic, any, I don't know, local clubs that want clinics from me, let me know, because I'm looking for an excuse to come back. And that's all. So, okay. Let's see. What are we talking about again? Oh yeah, we're talking about the percentage of, should you be the best player on the court versus the worst player on the court? Should you be even? I know there's been a lot of discussion on, should you be the worst player on the court as often as possible in your pickleball doubles games in practice? Because if you are, then it's easier to improve more quickly because your weaknesses are more clearly shown to you. It's almost like they get shoved in your face. Anything that you're not doing well, if you're playing against somebody who's better than you, then it becomes increasingly obvious. And I think there's a use case for playing with players that are better than you, but I don't think you should do it more often than 25% of the time, because I don't think you want to be building defensive habits too much and building bad habits. And the reason that I bring this up is because I was just teaching a clinic, and there was a few people that said that they had heard somebody say, look, like, you should, and this was a pro that said this, or maybe it was a teaching person that said, you should always look to be the worst player in your practice game. You should always look to schedule practice games with players that are better than you so that you can get better. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. That's not what I did on my journey to becoming pretty good at pickleball. I think that I would say, and I've done a lot of thinking on this. Josh knows we spent a long time discussing these numbers, and we are confident that these are the correct numbers. I think that you should be the best player on the court in your rep games, in your practice games, 25% of the time. You should be the worst player on the court in your practice games, 25% of the time. And then you should be relatively even 50% of the time. And that adds up to 100. Right, Josh? Yeah. Okay, no, just kidding. So that's important. And obviously you're not going to hit these numbers on the head. It's not going to be perfect, but I think that that's a good general way to look at it, because if you're the best player on the court a quarter of the time, there is instead of saying, oh, I'm the best player on the court, these 3 people that I'm practicing with aren't that good. I think that's your opportunity to take over and work on your shots and be aggressive and play a little looser. And if you miss, it's not the end of the world. And I think that's your time to work on just taking more court and taking the middle. If your partner's getting targeted, you have license to take more middle and more middle. And that's another thing. People have said, oh, what am I going to do if my partner's getting targeted? Well, if your partner's getting targeted, they're intimately aware of the fact that they're getting targeted. At least I would hope that they were, which means that you can take a step over and a step over and a step over, because you don't want to just be playing your side if you're not hitting the ball. What you do is, if they're getting hitting every ball to your partner, you get closer and closer to their side, and then your partner will move a little closer to, for example, the right. If they're playing the right, they'll move a little more to the sideline to shrink the court for your opponent. So you don't just do this so that, oh, I want to play, my partner's getting targeted, I want to hit the ball. It's actually strategically the right thing to do, because if they're hitting every ball to your partner, then your partner can take a step over to the side and to the side, and then the court shrinks, because that target that is your partner, the targeted player, becomes smaller when he or she has moved closer to the sideline. And that makes it tougher for your opponents. So if your partner's getting targeted, tell them, hey, I'm going to take a little more middle. It's fine. And if they get upset about it, which I'm sure they won't, tell them James and Josh says so. That's all. I just realized you guys don't even know who Josh is. He's the producer of the show. You might know him. I bring him up sometimes randomly. But anyway, he's the best. That's all. Okay. Just want to make sure you guys know who I'm talking about. Okay. So that's the other reason why you should, I think, be the worst player on the court 25% of the time, is because that's how your weaknesses do get shown to you. They get shoved in your face. It's intimately obvious to you what you're doing right and wrong. For me, at least, when I got started and I was playing with better and better players, I would notice things that I was bad at. And if you're playing with players who are worse than you, you don't notice what you're bad at, because what you are, maybe not bad at, but what your weaknesses are kind of masked, because you're playing against players who are worse than you, and stuff that is your weakness might be even or better than the players who you're playing with if they're worse than you. So that's something to definitely look out for. Um, when I think I made big jumps when I jumped into games with players who were better than me, for a couple reasons. Just like we said earlier, I mean, it made very clear to me what I was weak at, what I wasn't good at, and it also just showed me that there are different shots that you can hit, that you might, let's say you watch it on YouTube, for example. But for me, I mean, when I was 5 or 6 months in, I first started jumping into games with J.W. Johnson and Gabriel Tardio and Georgia Johnson, even, who was better than me at the time. And I had seen it on YouTube. I watched JW play, but then to actually experience that on the court and be across the net from him, and on the same side as him, I was able to pick up more quickly the things that he was doing and then try to implement them into my game. I think that's a super key thing. You can always watch the pros, and there's definitely a benefit to watching the pros, but playing with better players, either on the same side or across the net, I think, will pick up more quickly what they do, how they do it, because it's right in front of your face. You get a feel for it. And that's how you get better too, just copying other people. One thing that humans are pretty good at is copying other humans. And you don't want to, you want to be your own player, but you definitely don't want to stop yourself from copying others. If you see somebody that's good at something, you should copy them. For example, Federico Staksrud, one of the best left side players in the game, he copied his entire game after Ben Johns. He just copied it. And now you look at Federico, and Federico beats Ben Johns, sometimes, right? I mean, it just goes to show that you can copy other people, and you should copy other people, especially if they're better than you. So then lastly, I think 50% of the time at least, you should just be kind of even with the players that you're playing with, so that you can experiment on things. For example, work on shots, try different things against players that are your level. I think that if everybody's the same level, it makes it a lot more fun. I think it's easier to play better games. I think that the pace is better. And I just think that if you're playing with players who are your level, one thing, if you really do want to get better, and I'm not saying you should always do this, but you can try to make it competitive and play for something. That was something that helped me a lot too, because if you're somebody who plays better in rec than in tournaments, which is pretty common.
What's up, everyone? Selkirk Pro here, Jack Sock.
Hey everyone, it's John Isner here.
We got some insane deals for you coming. Black Friday, Cyber Monday.
Anything pickleball related that you want, paddles, balls, apparel, gear, whatever it is.
Anything you possibly need to improve your game and have the best in the pickleball world.
Selkirk has you covered on Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
Go check it out at selkirk.com.
That probably just means that when you play rec, you're not treating it like a tournament. And what that means is when you play rec, you kind of just go out there and have fun, and you're a little lackadaisical maybe. You're just trying different things, and you're sort of on a different wavelength than if you were to go play a tournament, and you're going to feel a little nervous, and you're going to feel those sort of emotions when you play the tournament. And then since you're not used to feeling that way in rec, it kind of feels novel to you, and then you might play worse. So one thing that helped me a ton was, I'm not advising you to do this, but I would play rec games for money, right? Or I would play rec games with something on the line, push-ups against other great players, and I still do this with other pros. Sometimes we'll play for something. You play for something, I think it makes the game better. People try a little harder, and then it kind of, it doesn't replicate the tournament intensity, but it'll bring things a little bit up, I think you'll play a little harder. And if you condition yourself to play that way, you sort of treat it like a tournament. I mean, in my practice notes, I read my practice notes before every practice. The first thing is, treat it like a tournament mentally. And then if I treat every practice like a tournament, which is easier for me to do because I'm playing a pro and I'm playing against other pros. I'm not saying everybody's got to do this. I'm sure you're going out there to have fun too. But for me, if I treat every practice like a tournament, I go to a tournament and it's not new to me. And it's just the same. I'm just playing, I'm just looking at the ball and I'm hitting my shots. And I think that's, you want to keep it simple. I think that's actually the way to improve at playing under pressure is to put yourself under pressure in practice. So, yeah, that's all. I'm not saying that you have to do that if you just want to go out there and have fun. Then we'll actually, it's funny. I just played rec with Collin Johns and the guy, I'll say this, resetting might not be the most fun thing for a lot of people. It's not something that's like super cool, maybe. I don't know. But you don't really realize how good Collin Johns is at resetting until you play with him on your team and you notice how many times he bails you out of bad shots that you hit. And today I hit a decent amount of bad shots, and it was just shocking. I think that it kind of changed my perspective a little on how important resetting is because it's one of those things, it's almost like an intangible thing. You're not really padding the stat sheet with your resets. Nobody really, it's something that kind of doesn't get as much as noticed. You might notice one great, wow, it's a great reset. But over the course of a game, if Collin Johns is 15 or 20% better at resetting than the other right sider, that stuff adds up and people might not notice that. And it just makes your partner play better too, the better you are at resetting, I think. Because then I felt like, wow, well, I don't have to be perfect on this or that shot because if it goes to Collin, the guy's like, he's like Steph Curry. He's just gonna drop it right in. And yeah, so I think that's just something to note. I know the game's getting a little faster, the paddles are getting a little hotter, and people are driving their thirds and even fifths sometimes more often. And I think that's all fine and good. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be a place for somebody who can reset the ball really well. And the other key thing there too is if you're somebody who maybe isn't the best athlete or isn't somebody who has a great backhand or likes to play the left, you can get into better games and higher quality games as a right side player because the left side player will take the middle. At most levels, the left side player is going to be considered the more advanced player if things kind of get to the point where you're stacking, which is probably 4.0 or 4.5 plus. But if you're a 4.5 that has really good resetting ability and you're not going to miss, there's a use case and there's actually going to be demand, I think, for you in higher level games. I think that's how you get invited into higher level games is being a good right side player because there's almost because everybody, especially the men, want to play the left. That means there's going to be demand for somebody to play the right. You can't have two guys on the left playing at the same time. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And I'll say the one thing that I think stood out to me the most was how quiet Colin's body is on his resets. He's just not moving at all. And I wonder if that's something that is maybe something that he's more comfortable with than other people. That's kind of just his style. Or if that is like the meta for how to be really good at resetting the ball, kind of just standing and not moving, just acting like a wall. Pickleball is an unsolved game, so we don't really know. We do know that you don't have to move as much as me, obviously, but I just think that yeah, just go out there and practice resets, and I think the next time I do it, I'm gonna just try to see how I hit my resets if when I'm hitting the ball, I'm as quiet with my body as possible, just not moving, just being almost a statue, because it looks like that's what Colin does, and yeah, I'm trying to learn and trying to figure that out as well. So that's all. Wish I had more to have. We've got a clinic, couple clinics. We're doing a clinic with my favorite, Heather, in New Canaan on December 27th. She's the best. And then on December 28th and December 29th, we're going to Kingsbury Club in Medfield, Massachusetts. We're going to be doing it with my guy, Johnny. He is also the best. Had a great time last time. We almost sold everything out. We're going now for 2 days in a row. And yeah, we're going to have Max Freeman there as an assistant also, which is going to be super fun. Having me and Max at the clinics is always cool because now, I mean, Max's results have been amazing. And we have a good time. We make the clinics fun. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, yeah, I also almost forgot to talk about the thing that I'm even more excited about than the PPA Finals. So the reason that I'm in San Clemente here is because we're in the PPA Finals. It's for the top 8 players in the world in mixed doubles, which I'm in, and the top 16 in the world for men's doubles, which I'm also lucky to be in. So the day after that, we're going to Tokyo, which is going to be pretty cool. And for the PPA Finals, I'm playing with Megan Dazan and Matt Wright, which is going to be fun. But even more fun is I think that we're going to be going directly to Tokyo, me, Max Freeman, Ryan Fu, and my sister. So we're just going to be doing mega clinics there for 7 days. It's, I think, almost all day. We're going to be offering have some sort of offering, whether it's with teaching, or, clinics, exhibition. We're just going to be doing everything we possibly can. So I just wanted to say, I don't know how many of you guys are going to come to or watching from Tokyo are going to sign up. The main reason I say this is if you've been, give me some recommendations because this is my first time going out of the country outside of Canada and the Dominican Republic, and that's it. I haven't been out of the country in like 4 years. I went to Canada with my fraternity, um, or with yeah, this was probably shouldn't even I went to I didn't go to Canada for business, and, but now I'm going to Tokyo for business, sort of, but I'm also looking for some recommendations. So if you have any fun ideas, anything for me to do, I'm going with my 2 best friends and my sister, so, we're definitely open to anything of that nature. We're gonna get there on Monday, December 8th. We're gonna be there for 8 days, so that's all. Had to throw that in. Thanks, guys.